And so if the thing that you're terrified of is stepping on the scale and having it go up 3/4 of a pound, like, hey, listen, that's a psychological problem that you're going to have to deal with. But if your fear is that you'll wake up one day and you'll be a 230-pound linebacker, that is not possible unless your husband is feeding you horse steroids that you don't know about. You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship.
Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. I'm Scott Hambrick, and there's Matt Reynolds. And today we're going to talk about a question from Colin. But before we do that, I wanted to share a joke, Matt Reynolds.
I can't wait to hear it.
All right.
See if it makes me laugh.
Do you know why?
I haven't had anything to drink yet today, so this is going to be pure, like, we'll see if your humor can break through.
Do you know why Jeffrey Epstein shopped at Walmart?
I'm already laughing. Okay, why did he shop at Walmart?
He heard there were half off girls' underwear.
Oh, my God. That's so bad. Oh, goddamn. It's so bad, dude. All right, here we go. And rolling.
We had a question from Colin, and he said he wanted us to record a podcast with a guest, but we don't do that. So
we just tell you what we think about everything, even when we have nothing to do with the demographic that they ask about.
But do you have to be exactly like somebody else to know anything about it?
Not.
Like, we're all people.
Grief. Well, and for us, for me especially, I've coached, 2 decades. So the person he's going to ask about, I've coached hundreds of people like this. So let's ask the question. What is the question?
Well, so we'll give a little case history here. He says, my wife was a former Division I cross-country runner. Her body is so beat up from running, no arch in her foot, stress fractures, and her femur, a torn hip labrum. Because of her injury history and a bodybuilding routine she did a number of years ago that made her gain weight, she's not open to the idea of weight training. And he says, are there any coaches or clients that have a similar story? If so, have them on so I can suddenly play the podcast the next time my wife and I are in the car together.
First off, this is going to get real awkward. So, Colin, don't play the first 60 seconds of the podcast where we actually talk about specifically her.
No, it's about you, man. We're doing this for you.
But it is for you.
Consider this to be a gift.
Man, there are so many before you. I know you have so many thoughts. I do too. The first thing is there's about 9 angles we can take here. We're going to have to take all 9 of them.
Yeah. The first one is there's nothing unique to her or females about this.
No,
we have so many people that have been, cardio bunnies or runners or whatever that are just really, really beat up, and they've gotten a little bit older, and they can't run and do that stuff like they used to, but they just don't want to get heavier, and they're just not ready for the paradigm shift, into weight training. And the thing that I tend to tell those people is like, well, that you can't run anymore. Your body has told you that. So now what do we do?
Yeah.
I would have if we had a time machine, I'd go back and get them to weight train from the very, very beginning. But since we don't have the time machine, we're still faced with the facts, which is stress fractures, collapsed arch in the foot, jacked up hip, probably looking at, getting a new medial condyle, and we're getting older. So now what do we do? And really all they're left with, actually, by and by, is strength training, which is where they should have been in the first place.
Yeah. Culture sucks, dude. I mean, that's really so the first problem is culture, right? Like just Western culture, American culture teaches females that they need to look a certain way, that they need to, and so we even, I think we should be honest about the fact that we lose female clients sometimes at Barbell Logic who train, get strong, look good, perform better, are healthy, and then the culture calls back to them like it's like they're a heroin addict that says, "Oh, you need to get real skinny again. You don't weigh 112 anymore. You need to go back to 112." And so, the first part of this is above our pay grade. It's Dr. Pewter sort of stuff, which is just that probably this lady, and not knowing her specifically, she's been caught in that culture her entire life. And then on top of that, she was a Division I cross-country athlete, which means she was performing, she competed at a high level at a catabolic sport. Mm-hmm. A sport that is impossible to put on weight if you are competing at a high level. So she did that throughout her teenage years and her 20s. And so he doesn't say how old she is now. So we just know she's getting older, but so she's probably middle age, approaching middle age. And you can't compete in a catabolic sport for 25 years. It just doesn't, your body can't do it. And so I think the first thing that's important for our listeners to recognize is that our goal is not primarily to look good. It's to be healthy and perform better by getting stronger, and we believe that improves everybody's quality of life. And so I think the first question I would have anybody, whether it's long distance running or whatever the thing is that you're doing, is I would ask, is this thing improving my quality of life? Well, like it sounds like from the question, it's not. The long distance running is no longer improving. It's actually robbing her of value. And I think just like in a very similar way, like these
it has rendered her less fit.
That's right. And less healthy and less resilient, and it's robbing her of quality of life. And so I think, a lot of these people who are, we call them cardio bunnies, but it's often exercise bulimia. They can't stop exercising. And I think it's a disease, and I think it's a disease that's similar to any other addiction. That one of the first things they have to do is admit that that there's a problem there. And again, I don't know this person specifically, and so I'm just talking about my experience as a coach. And so,
well, these folks that have been in these, like you say, catabolic sports, when I've sat down and talked to them and said, well, what do you think you should weigh? And they'll state something, they'll give it a weight. And that's in the weight that they have. It's a number, and the number it just means one thing, how hard you're pushing down on the scale. And
sure.
And it's like, well, you can't weigh what you weighed when you were doing the catabolic thing.
Right.
You just can't do it. It's just not reasonable anymore. And then they also, particularly ladies, I'm like, what would you like to weigh? And they say, 120. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
When did you last weigh 120, ma'am? You're 34. And she says, Eighth grade. Yep, eighth grade.
Yeah, that's right. When I was 14.
You were a child.
Yeah, right. Right.
You can't do that. And then I'm going to get into aesthetics here. I like grown-ass women. I don't like weird fucking collarbones and shoulder blades and knobby elbows and stuff, Sure. I don't want to see their acromion,
No, it's not just you. It's not, there have been lots of studies about this that if it's about, but see, the problem is that I don't think, and I want to be careful breaking down the female psyche here, is that I just don't think most females are trying to look good for men. I think they're trying to look good for women.
At least what they think is good.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we know there are tons of studies out there that show that the most attractive body weight at this height for men that are attracted to women are like 20, 30 pounds heavier than what women think is attractive. So, whatever that is, I don't want to screw up the stat, but, women think, oh, it's 125, and men are like, no, man, 155, 160, way more, right? Like, whatever. And so, but I don't think that's why they're doing it. I think, and that's why I say I think it's the culture is the problem. I think that they don't recognize what is actually attractive, but I don't think that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, and they don't have to do it to be attractive to guys either. But
no,
but they often will state these numbers that one, they either attained when they were doing the catabolic thing all the time and they were in their early 20s, or they give one that was really, frankly, before they were fully mature. They were like, they're children, know, and then they have to kind of recalibrate what they think those numbers ought to be.
Sure. So, by the way, this doesn't just extend to people who have done catabolic sport. My wife coached a lady who's a good friend of hers all summer, so that they're homeschool moms, and so she got a bunch of kids, as all homeschool moms other than my wife and your wife have. They all have 19 children. And but she decided to train, and she trained, like no shit, trained, did a linear progression. Rachel coached her. I didn't coach her at all. She came in. Rachel let her hit PRs at the end of the summer this past week. She had big PRs. You know, she squatted. I think she squatted 205. And this is a lady who's coming out of LP. She did a 225 deadlift easy, you know, stuff, and she had never touched a weight before. And this lady was she's got a big frame on her. She's tall anyway. And she's been a little bit overweight, and she's worked hard on eating right and being healthy and performing, and she feels better, and she looks better. Her clothes fit better. She just like her face beams with positivity in a way that I've never seen before. And the second to last week, she came in and told Rachel, she's like, I got on the scale and I'd gained 3 pounds. And she was real upset about it. And Rachel said, hold on. Do your clothes fit better? And she's like, yes. And she's like, do you look better? Yes. Do you feel better? Yes. You know, is your marriage better? Yes. What are we doing? And she was like, what? She's like, what? Who cares? Who cares if the scale went up 3 pounds? You know, that doesn't matter.
It's so difficult.
And so that's what I mean. It's this culture, and it's not just with people that have done these catabolic sports. It's with soccer moms who have never done anything in their life physical, right? They're terrified to put on a few pounds on the scale, even though that I bet this lady has lost, if you took measurements around her arms, her bust, her waist, and her hips, I bet she's lost 18 or 19 inches this summer.
Yeah.
You know. And her weight went down for a long time anyway, and then it's, you know, she's added some muscle and it's bumped a little bit back up, and who knows? You know, there's menstrual cycles and all sorts of, maybe she ate too much salt last night, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's just, people get addicted to that scale and it becomes a problem. So that's a big problem. I want to talk a little bit too, though, about Colin. Let's talk a little bit about the husband. Yeah. Because it's a big, man, we got a bunch more people who are listening to this podcast that are actually in Colin's position than are in Colin's wife's position, right? And so if you're a husband and you want to get your wife to train, and we've said this before, there is no such thing as external motivation. Nobody is going to make anybody do anything unless you're literally going to bind their hands with zip ties and you know, put a gag in their mouth and then force them to do something. Then they're a slave. Not in a good way, Scott. Not in a good kind. So my experience there is also, and I've done both. When I pressure my wife to do anything, it doesn't go well. When I model it, when I encourage her, when I compliment her for doing those things, not in a fake sort of way, in a authentic, because I care, it makes a difference. And that's the only way that it makes a difference. And deep down inside, she's doing it for her anyway. She's not doing it because of those compliments, but I can guarantee you she's not going to do it if I push her into it. And so, brother, you can't push your wife into doing this thing, right? You can do it. Your life can get better. You can enjoy it. But it's like religion or politics. You shove it down somebody's throat, they're going to do everything they can to vomit it back up. They don't want it. And so you got to live it. You got to model it. You got to encourage it. You got to cheer her on. If she wants to go do body pump, or she wants to go do CrossFit, just, hey babe, listen, I love that you're doing something that's not cross country running, right? And hope that leads into getting strong.
Yes, Susan said that she'd come and spot for me and I'll train with her. And you can go do body pump.
That works.
It should be, maybe.
Well, and then that's another part too that you and I have talked about this before, that it seems like, and I realize we're making sort of blanketed statements that doesn't apply to everybody, but for my wife, and I don't know if this is true necessarily for your wife, but for my wife especially, having the social aspect of lifting is important for her. Having somebody to lift with. My wife didn't miss hardly any workouts all summer long because she had this lady that she was training that I was just talking about. They trained together. And she loves that, and she likes the social aspect of training with me as well. But she likes having a female to train with, and so that's another big piece. Is Colin would probably do much better for his wife if he could find a training partner for his wife that's also female.
She can she's going to have to find her own training partner.
Well, right.
One of my favorite things to do with clients that come for in-person training that are struggling with this. And sometimes it's dudes too. It's not just ladies. This is not just a female phenomenon whatsoever. I'll say, hey, Charity, come out in the gym. She'll come out, and I'll say, what do you think she weighs? because the weight thing is so deceptive. They underestimate Charity's weight by 25 pounds.
Yeah, sure.
Every single time.
Sure.
And then Charity's like, oh no, I weigh this, and they can't believe it.
Yeah,
I'm like, I was like, quit getting on the scale, you idiot.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the wrong thing to look at.
Right.
We don't want people to get obese. We don't, but we want their muscle mass to go up. And diligent people. If your wife's a diligent person, or you're a loved one that you want to do this, is a person that pays attention to their health and wants to maintain quality of life for years and years and years, they are going to be led to this because there gets to a point where you can't do anything else.
Right.
It might take longer than you want it for them to get there.
What's Sybil going to do?
What's Sybil going to do?
She's 83 years old. She going to run?
No.
What? She can't run. She going to go be in a women's basketball league? Right? Like, what's she going to possibly do, man, other than strength train? That's why Sully, we've got another barbell prescription seminar coming up in Detroit, which you guys can't get into because it's sold out in 24 hours like it always does. I get to go work that one. I'm excited. Like, what's Dr. Sullivan preach? It's strength, because that's what works for that population. It's the only thing that works for that population. Yep. So we've talked before about this idea of voluntary hardship and stuff, and I've said before, and I mean it. Like, there are people out there who are hardcore rock climbers or mud runners or racers or whatever. Like, man, you could do that, and you could probably get some good voluntary hardship and have some refinement from that when you're 24. But Sybil can't go do Spartan races, man.
Nope.
Sybil comes to the gym and she squats and she deadlifts and she benches and she presses and she does her lat pull downs and she gets on the Echo bike because that's what she can do. And she's going to do that, and we're going to keep making it better and harder until one day she's 83 now, until one day she's going to be 87 and she's not going to be able to hit PRs anymore, and she's still going to come in and do it, and we're going to do just like you've said. We're going to pull weight off the bar as slow as we possibly can to maintain her strength as best we can, because she's not going to be 83 anymore. She's not going to be a spry young 83. She's going to be 93.
Yeah.
Right? And she's probably not going to deadlift at 93 what she's doing at 83.
But
if she's alive, and I hope she is, and she's certainly doing what she can to preserve that, she's still going to be deadlifting. Right? That's the point. That she can't run. So.
Oh gosh, almost all the guys I train want to get bulky. Bulky, whatever that means.
Sure.
Like they want to put on mass. So I spend half of my time yelling at people to gain weight.
Yeah.
And the guys can't do it.
Right. Right.
And so if you're a lady, and or even if you're a guy and you're worried about gaining weight, it takes a long, concerted effort to actually do that. Yeah. You're not going to get bulky. Like, guys spend thousands and thousands of dollars every month to take drugs so they can get bigger.
Yeah.
And then
or even just supplements and whatever, right?
Yeah.
You go to a college weight room, I really remember the day it hit me in the late 90s. I would train in the college weight room, in the university weight room. Listen, every university weight room in the world is full of a bunch of dudes who want to get bigger and more jacked.
And none of them are big.
And none of them are getting bigger and more jacked. And the next year you come in, that guy still weighs 155. And the next year you come in, he still weighs 155. And he doesn't get better. It ain't that easy. And that guy is 19 and 20 years old, full of natural testosterone. And he still has a hard time getting big.
Yep.
You're a 42-year-old female who used to be a cross-country runner, who's probably full of still cortisol anyway, and no testosterone because you're a female, virtually none. Right? It's not easy. It's not easy to. Not only that, it's impossible to get bulky. It's not impossible to put on a little weight. And so, if the thing that you're terrified of is stepping on the scale and having it go up 3/4 of a pound, like, hey, listen, that's a psychological problem that you're gonna have to deal with. But if your fear is that you'll wake up one day and you'll be a 230-pound linebacker, that is not possible unless your husband is feeding you horse steroids that you don't know about, right?
Putting stuff in your food.
Yeah, and your mashed potatoes. He's mashing up Anadrol in your mashed potatoes, which I feel like Colin is the kind of guy who wouldn't do that, Scott.
I don't know.
I don't know him real well.
I don't know him at all.
But just based on his questions, I feel like he's not a guy that would crush up steroids and put it in his wife's mashed potatoes.
And maybe he should.
I wish my wife would crush up steroids and put them in my mashed potatoes.
All of these things are maybe baseless, or maybe they're irrational, or I don't know. But so when I have somebody in front of me, I don't normally make most of these arguments, but I do have a thing where I tell them, guess what charity weighs, and then they underestimate it. Sure. I say, see, maybe you handicap that because you don't want to say a lady weighs more than whatever, but sure. I'm like, I know that you didn't think that she weighed that much because muscle is so very dense. So I don't want you to focus on what your weight on your scale says. And then I also tell them is like, look, if you start, and I tell ladies this in particular, if you start getting bulky, we'll stop.
Sure.
Like if you start getting like, just ripped and giant, well, we can pull back.
Yeah, right.
We can pull back. And then we also have clients who are in weight restriction sports, and we can strength train a great deal, particularly for the novice, and actually not make the scale move. So if that is something that is really a drop dead requirement for you, ma'am, and you are listening still, it is possible with a good coach and proper nutrition to pretty much to stay in your weight class, whatever that is. And you could probably, I don't know you, but my guess is that you could double your squat and not have your weight change. Yeah, and you would benefit from that a great deal. Insofar as you double your squat, you're less likely to fall and break your hip and all of that other stuff, which is in our future if we don't do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we train all kinds of people at Barber Logic. But, we had the Canadian Greco-Roman national champions. They're brothers, actually, twin brothers. And they're weight class sport. We have a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys and females who are in weight class sports there. We train people who actually are competitive cyclists, competitive rock climbers, competitive fighters that are all in weight class sports. Like you can't weigh 230 if your weight class is 138. It doesn't work. So we can do that. So it takes a coach, but a lot of it is, I think there's a lot of fear there. I think people are they're worried they're gonna wake up and be something. Yeah. And you get it from the guys too, right? Again, I want to be careful. I
want to tell a story about that.
I was gonna say you get a lot of guys. I don't know what it is, why you get. I think people know that you're intelligent, and so sometimes you get these guys that sign up and they're kind of like nerdy English guys. Like a lot of times they're from England or something, or they're European, and they're like, hey, I want Scott Hambrick. I want him to be my coach. And then they come on and you're like, hey, and they weigh 137 and they're a 24, 27-year-old guy. And you're like, what do you do? It's like, I'm a computer programmer. I do this. And so, yeah, I'm sure you've got some.
I just lost a coaching client, an online coaching client, after about 7 or 8 months. He signed on at 141 pounds and 5'8".
Man, that's
really
insanely skinny.
Yeah, he has disordered eating. And poor guy, if you're listening, man, I love you. You've got some challenges, But after about 6 months, he got up to around 152. Mm-hmm. His LP squat was over at 155 for 3x5. He never did 160 for 3x5. He was a pseudo intermediate, very, very, very quickly. And I was just trying to get him to eat. He sent me a text message at one point that said, Scott, I legit have a gut hanging over my belt. This has got to stop, Right. And there's no universe where this man had a gut hanging over his belt.
No person on earth. Right. That's right.
No, a 5'8" guy at 151 pounds. It's just, it just can't be so, and I want to be helpful. I want him to be healthy. I want him to be stronger. I never wanted him to weigh 205. I just wanted him to weigh a little bit more,
Sure.
He sent me an email and he said, I'm just really unhappy with the progress I've made here. And I'm just like, what the?
Sure.
I can't help, man.
No, it's a psychological issue.
Yeah. But it's, he could not conceive of himself as weighing 163 pounds even. I mean, I couldn't get him past 150.
That was terrifing to him to think about.
Apparently so. And I tried to work with him as best as I could. And I tried to listen and be understanding and be helpful. And I wanted him to eat a little more. I didn't want him to go mad. I never sent him your article, Eating Through the Sticking Points, but
yeah, because you were careful, because you understood that he was probably fringe anyway. Like you can't send somebody that you can't do that.
And I've had this happen again and again and again where I've got a 5'10" guy that weighs 163 and he's like, oh man, it's time to do a cut. I'm like, brother, you're squatting 180.
Sure.
And I could see your heartbeat through your shirt like a
Right.
cave crawfish. Like,
right.
You're just, and I don't know what to do about it. I mean, there's body dysmorphia out there in men and women.
We get it on both ends of the spectrum, right? We have guys that they refuse to, they're going to get big at all costs. And then you have people who are really skinny and they want to stay really skinny at all costs. And there are people who are too big that want to get little and skinny. What if I came to you and I hired you, Scott, and I was like, hey man, I want to weigh 150 pounds in like 18 months, right? Like that's the same thing. You're like, bro, it's not possible. You can't do that. And likewise, if somebody comes, I've had people come to me. I mean, and this is often just out of ignorance, but especially younger kids, usually guys, they'll sign up. They'll be 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. They're like, hey, I want to set the world record in powerlifting. And you're like, wait, what? You're like, how close are you now? Like, no, I'm just getting into it. I just read some articles.
Right.
You're like, I don't, so some of it's ignorance, some of it's body dysmorphia. A lot of it is just, people they don't understand about what brings them value. They're stuck in that culture.
Well, they're about something else brings some value, than what.
I don't think they do though. Right. But the same way heroin brings some people value. Right. No, I mean, really though, it's not, and I get it. It's not exactly the same thing. Although with some people, body dysmorphia is just as dangerous, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
I've told Pewter this, my primary psychologist here in town, she primarily deals with females with eating disorders, which is hilarious that I'm definitely her biggest human I'm sure.
Now, wait a minute. Do you have disordered eating, Matt Reynolds?
I do not have well, I don't know. Maybe I do. I mean, I think a lot of us have some form of disordered eating. I am a...
I do.
I'm a stress eater, but I stress eat out of convenience. When I'm stressed, I'll eat for convenience. I just like, fuck it, I'll eat whatever, Yeah. Rachel's like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know, pick something. And the girl's like, oh, we want McDonald's. I'm like, fuck
sounds good.
Go get me something. I don't care. So if that's my version of disordered eating, training for me drives eating, always, never the other way around. When I train, and training is going okay, I will eat for performance because I love to train. It comes back to that. It's weird how, some of these podcasts will come for full circle. Training isn't a thing I do to help the medicine go down. That's not what I'm doing. I really enjoy training. So when training's going well, I want to eat so training continues to go well. That's a big part of it for me. But I'm not, and I know I've had other clients that are the opposite. They're like, boy, I just got to get my diet fixed and then I'll start training again. That's never me. Man, if I'm stressed and I'm not training, I'm eating shit. And alcohol, drinking too much alcohol, same thing, right? It's not like alcohol is not a problem for me from an alcoholism or a drunk or a taking the edge off sort of problem. Certainly 99% of the time, alcohol is a problem for me for calories. God damn, it is so many calories.
Yeah.
And if I'm stressed and stuff, and I'm just sipping on a whiskey here and there, and I'm never drunk. I'm like, I don't know. I had my first whiskey at noon. And, and then I had 2 beers at lunch and I had, whatever else. And you're like, God damn, I had 8 drinks today. And they were spread out over the course of 10 hours.
That might be a lot.
That's way too much. But you got to remember, I'm 300 pounds.
Your phone's getting ready to start ringing. It's going to be Pewter.
Yeah, probably.
Matt.
That's the first thing Pewter was like. Pewter can't say this, but the first time I did a session with Pewter, he was like, hey, can we talk about the alcohol first? Like, is that a problem?
Matt, I'm a little concerned about your alcohol.
It's not I told Santana the other day, I was like, dude, I'm getting too many calories in alcohol. And he's like, I know, stress drinking, right? I was like, not really stress drinking. I'm just, if I'm not training and everything's stressful, it's just what I do. So yeah, man, I think a lot of people, don't you think that the majority of people on earth, in first world countries, at some point have some form of disordered eating in their life? Like just
clearly, I've been to Walmart.
I mean, almost everybody's gone through this before. So, and whether that's not eating enough or eating too much or stress eating or emotional eating or whatever those things are, like it's just
yeah.
We've been there.
At this point, so many people are obese, and at this point, when I have a new client come to me who isn't obese, I pretty much know that they're pretty controlling about their food. Like it's so hard to not be fat if you aren't someone that trains.
That's right.
That if I see a guy that comes to me and he's 5'10", he weighs 170, I know that guy eats about 1,200 calories a day.
That's right. He's got control issues, which which listen might mean that he's guys probably keeps a meticulous budget.
Yeah.
Right. His check register is perfect.
If he doesn't weight train, by the way, that's probably what he should weigh.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
But when we start weight training, we're strength athletes, and the calculus changes.
Yeah, my uncle's like that. I got an uncle, and my uncle weight trained some. Let's see, my mom is 65, so my uncle's maybe 61. My uncle at 61, he looks great. Like my uncle, my mom's younger brother, he looks right now like he's 45, and that's in the face. If you cut his head off, he could be on the cover of a Men's Health magazine. And he's always been that way. But he's that exact thing, man. He is super. I assume Uncle Tim, if you're listening, love you. I always looked up to Uncle Tim because when I was a kid, he was one of those guys. He wasn't super jacked at all. He was just like lean. He looked good. He was like looked good. Not as muscular as Darren Deaton, but a guy that was kind of built like that, right? Like a kind of Darren Deaton type. Carried himself well. Was real serious. He was real serious about eating like local organic fruits and vegetables in like 1992 before anybody else was had ever even heard of those words, and so he was one of those guys, but uber controlling, right? So like it was all about control, and I think that's what it is for a lot of people. It's this thing in my life, especially when your life is crazy. Here's something I can control what I put in my mouth. Or for some of us, it's the opposite. For me, it's the opposite, right?
I want to control what you put in your mouth.
No, you do not want to. I don't want you to. I never want you to control what goes in my mouth, Scott.
Oh shit.
So sometimes I'm the opposite, right? I get stressed and everything's crazy, and I'm like, fuck it, I don't care what. I'll put anything in my mouth, Scott.
I know this. I've got a new client. Great fun. It's a couple, Rima and Lucas.
In person?
Yep. I'll talk about Lucas instead of Rima, but Lucas is a giant man. Mm. I think that Lucas is probably 6'6".
Okay.
And when he came to me, he weighed 3'7".
How old is he?
He's 32 years old.
Okay. Are you going to tell us how much he weighs later in the story, or now?
When he walked in the door, he's 370.
Okay. Huge dude.
Tall
and big.
Great big old guy.
Like a refrigerator walking in the door.
Yeah, great big old guy. And Rima's tall. So if they have kids, they're just going to be, I call them the Nephilim, the two of them. And at the end of week 5 of LP, which was this morning for them, she pulled 255 and he pulled 315.
Right. Yeah.
They're so goddamn strong.
Right. And the bar and the weights all just like look tiny in their hands.
Yeah.
Like
they're just...
You're like, what are you putting? You're putting them little plates on. Like, nope, those are regular plates. They're just big.
I don't know how tall she is. She's 5'11".
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But Lucas, he said, gosh, I've lost. I can't remember. He said 14 inches. He's measuring his chest, his hips, and his waist.
Yeah.
He hasn't lost that much weight.
Right.
210, something like that. And he had just a picture that he took.
210.
I'm sorry, about 10 pounds.
Oh, about 10.
I don't know why I said about. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's lost about 10 pounds. And he had a picture. It was just a headshot. He took a selfie with his phone. And, you can see it in his face. Like,
he's
going to more distinct jaw. Like, so what is the weight telling us there? Not very much. Like, his body composition has changed drastically. And he's such a big, strong guy. Like, he's going to be one of these 455 for 3x5 at the end of LP guys,
Sure. Yeah, the guy's lost 2.5% of his body weight. So nothing.
But his diameter has gone way down.
Yeah, it looks like a totally different guy.
And I think at the end of I think 2 years from now, they're in, dude. They're addicted. They love it.
Sure.
They're built for it. And I think at the end of 2 years, I think he's still going to weigh 315.
How old is he?
32.
Yeah. He might be winning USF nationals in like 2-3 years.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you're 600-pound squat, easy peasy. Like, this is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And but he's still going to be quite heavy.
Sure.
He's just a big guy.
Yeah,
he's
never going to be 242.
No.
Never going to happen.
No. But I'm just super proud of him.
So is Rima excited, or is she kind of pissed because she feels like he's had better
she's lost many inches as well.
Okay, good.
She's got a spreadsheet she was showing me this morning. She's lost probably about the same, but I don't know what her body weight numbers are. But she's tall. Right. I don't know. She's maybe 5'11", and and she's lost weight as well and lost inches. She was set up for the deadlift, and I poke down her back. I'm like, pull these, tighten these muscles that pull your chest up, and she goes, ugh! And like, sure, her back's getting jacked,
Yeah.
So the tail of the scale just doesn't tell the whole story for them, but we can tell in the way their clothes fit, and the tail of the tape is the important one. She was talking about her chest size went up. And that often happens with these ladies because they don't have much mass on their upper body. So they start getting some lats, they're pressing, and they're bench pressing, and the diameter of their bra goes up, but maybe the cup size goes down.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yep. Right.
Yeah, but man, they're looking great. And
it's wild. We talk. I want to be always very careful about. We talk about it. We do believe aesthetics are a byproduct. Aesthetic improvement is a byproduct of what we're doing here, and so. We try to not make aesthetics the focus. It's not the focus because we have seen the inner workings of the bodybuilding, bikini, physique, figure world, and it ain't pretty at all. No. It's not a healthy subculture to be in. When aesthetics is the be all end all, that's a problem. And so for us, we focus on strength and health and performance first. Which we believe leads to an improvement in quality of life, but always with that, there's an aesthetic improvement. And I want to be careful the way I say this too, because I don't want to objectify anything there. But there are a lot of people on our staff who are incredibly good looking, physically, like their physical, like their face. Hey, I got beautiful people's faces too that work for me. But there are a lot of people that men would look at other guys that work for us and go like, I'd love to look like that guy. Right. And our females are the same way, man. Our females, they carry themselves well. They're the type of most women would look at and go like, I want to look like that, and I think I could look like that. Mm-hmm. It's an attainable sort of goal. And then you look at those ladies that work for us, and they're all squatting, they're deadlifting, they're benching, they're pressing, they're doing heavy chins. That's 99% of everything they do. And so while aesthetics is certainly not the focus of what we do, like the vast majority of our staff, people would look at and go like, man, I'd like to look like that. I'm like, man, I was looking at like Charity when I was there a couple weeks ago at your house, like her shoulders are so jacked and so wide, and she's got abs, and but she's not a dainty 132-pound little girl. That's not what she is. But I think a lot of people would look. You take a lady, knowing nothing about the lady you were just telling me about, but these ladies who naturally have kind of a bigger frame, and they would look at Charity and go like, man, I'd love to look like that. That's what I want to look. That's an attainable goal for them.
Yeah, I think Rima actually said, do you think I can?
Right.
And I was like, no. Charity's a freak. She has the U.S. ladies press record, that shoulders are weird.
Yeah. Right.
But I was like, you'll get a whole lot harder and look a whole lot better, Yeah.
Yeah, this whole comparison to other people turns out real poor in general in aesthetics and in lifting and everything else. Like we do this because it makes our lives better and refines us, and I don't need to compare myself to anybody else there. And it's nice to know what's strong. Like I get it. You got to have some standards. I don't want to be lifting out in the middle of a black hole and not have any idea what strong is or any of that, what healthy is. But we got to have some of those standards. But in general, we do this for us, and we do it for our families and the people we care about.
Super proud of Lucas and Rima, man. They're crushing it, and they're gonna. You're probably gonna find out. People are probably gonna find out who they are.
Yeah, sure.
They're so goddamn strong, man. It's ridiculous.
That's good.
But for people who want their loved one, particularly I think the females in particular, they want their female loved ones to do this. There's some good people to follow on Instagram. They can see what the female form looks like that does this diligently.
That's right.
You can go follow the Nickies. You can go follow
Nikki
the
Berman,
Nickies.
Nikki Sims.
Anna Marie Oakes, man. You can go follow Anna Marie.
Yeah.
I think she's had 49 kids.
Yeah,
and you can go check that out.
Yeah. Ness.
Ness,
you got Alexis, you got Brooke, you got really anybody. Go to our page, our staff page, and pull any of those people up. Look at their, and same thing for the guys. Look at the guys and look at, you can see these guys like Darren Deaton and guys like Caleb Craig and guys like Andrew Jackson who, and you kind of span the spectrum from
don't look at Andrew.
So listen, Andrew looks great.
I know.
Andrew, he looks awesome.
I know. He's a freak.
Well, I know.
He looks like an upside down triangle. Like he's oh God, he's a specimen. I swoon. Yeah. Andrew. I
swoon. And he's got a great just chiseled jawline.
Yeah.
That's really what you can't get. You can aim for them shoulders and that waist size, but I don't care how hard you work, you're not getting that jawline. That Jesus gave him that.
At the coaches conference here, whenever that was, a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
We were talking to Stanton, and he's like, "What are you eating, Jordan?" Jordan Stanton. He was on here, episode in the 190s. He's the USSF strength lifting president and all around great guy. I'm like, "What are you eating, bro?" He's like, 1,000 grams of carbs a day, 300 grams of fat, 300 grams of protein. I go, quick maths. Like, dude, that's 7,900 calories. He's like, yeah, it's a job.
He's like, it's real hard.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's not enjoying it. He's like,
no.
And then we all went to the pool. We all took our shirts off, and he's like, jacked AF and vascular.
He's got ab veins.
Oh, man.
Matt gave a speech for like an hour. And in that hour-long speech, he ate a sack of plain bagels and a can of Pringles. Like it was a job. It is a job for him. It was joyless, man.
Yeah.
But 2,000-pound powerlifting total. Here we come. That's what's going on.
That's the goal. That's what he's shooting for. He called me the other day and we talked through it. So yeah. So Colin was the guy that asked the question first, right?
That's right.
Colin. So Colin, encourage your wife. Have a talk with her. Ask her, hey, babe, you can't run anymore. What do you think? What are you going to do? What would be the thing you would do since you can't do this because your body's broken down? And encourage her to weight train and, but don't browbeat her over it.
Always let her know that, if it starts getting out of control, she can stop. She can pull back.
That's right. We don't wake up one day. These things, we do this for long-term effects, long-term life changes. We don't wake up one day and accidentally become... we don't accidentally swing the pendulum too far the other way. I'm not going to wake up. Right. I'd love to just wake up one day and just look like a 100-meter sprinter. I'd love to wake up one day and just,
look like Usain Bolt.
Yeah. Just look like a Jamaican and just be just jacked and ripped everywhere. And, nope, doesn't happen. And if I ever do, and I decide I don't like it, I could pull back a little bit, go back to a little bit more McDonald's if I'm a little more comfortable with that. And same thing for you guys who are underweight. And ladies who are underweight, you can eat a little more groceries. You can squat and do your deadlifts. And one day if you wake up, you're like, well, a little bit too much. You can pull back. It's okay.
For you, Matt, literally fat chance.
Literally fat chance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. There's another podcast. I don't know if that's any help. Man.
We did our best.
Mrs. Collin, you'll be fine. Yeah. You'll be better. You'll be stronger. And you have the power to control this and not let it get out of control. So don't be afraid of that. Let's go see what you can do. Let's go see what your body can do, and let's see how much better you feel. And if the scale does get a little wacky, feel free to back off a little bit and maintain control of that. You have the right to do that. Well, anything else, Uncle Matt?
That's it, man.
All right. Well, there's another Barbell Logic podcast. Send us your questions like Colin did. Send it to questions@barbell-logic.com. Send us your Jeffrey Epstein jokes. Maybe we'll read those on a future episode. Yeah, we might do that. And, of course, go to Stitcher, Overcast. What are some of the other ones?
I don't know. I just listen to Overcast. Is there anything else?
No. I don't know.
iTunes, Stitcher. Are we on iHeartRadio?
We're on iHeartRadio. We're on TuneIn Radio. Yeah, we're on everything.
Yes.
And go to your favorite place, wherever you're listening to us now, and give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, and give us a little review.
And Scott will see it, and I won't.
That's right. And if it's good, it will be fodder for future content in the show.
Yes.
Talk to you in a few days, guys. Oh, you guys are so full.